And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs. That man over there is the wild man, Chris Wilds. And we are glad that you decided to watch this video today. Hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. It really does help the channel. We are the official podcast of Fansided and Scarlet and Game. So go check out scarletandgame.com and read all the great articles from myself, Frank, who was just a guest on our show, Chris, and other great writers over there at Scarlet and Game. Chris? If you thought college football realignment was done, oh boy, do we have
We
some
haven't
news for
touched it.
you. It's
Yeah.
it's getting juicy
It's
and
about to get wild.
it's gonna get crazy. All right, so let's dive into what everybody's talking about. Big picture, outside of the stratosphere of Ohio State and the amazing offseason we have had so far in the first part of this year. The Big Ten Conference and the SEC Conference are holding hands. You ever seen that meme? I think it's from Rocky, where you've got Rocky and Apollo Creed's big biceps and they're giving
Yeah.
each other a high five. That's the SEC and the Big Ten. They are strong arming the NCAA. And Chris, I love it. I'm all for it. You know how I hate the NCAA. I think the NCAA is corrupt. I think the NCAA, for the most part, has been a toothless, backbiting, hypocritical organization. And most fan bases, when they look at it from this aspect of what has the NCAA done to them, not what they've done to their rivals, but to them, will agree that the NCAA deserves to be out of here. The whole mess we are in with NIL, the transfer portal, recruiting, you name it. The backbiting with the 14 playoff that we just got done with. All of it can be pointed back to the fact that the NCAA has been a terrible ran organization from day number one in my existence, Chris. Do you agree?
I do. And if you look at this, Eric, it kind of makes sense with the SEC and the Big Ten joining up. Because let me tell you why. You have the Big Ten, whose member schools are absolutely furious at the NCAA for letting Jim Harbaugh get away with what he did, go out there and win an asterisk national championship. They've come down with nothing against Michigan. You turn the coin, you see the SEC has every right to be upset because you've got Florida State, Tennessee, and I believe it's Florida, Virginia, all under investigation.
Oh no, you're right.
It's Florida for allegations that weren't even illegal at the time that they were done.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they are just out of their ever-loving minds, whoever's doing this at the NCAA. It makes perfect sense for your two biggest power conferences to separate, say, you know what? We're going to create NFL 2.0. Well, that's basically, but it's going to extend farther, Eric, because it's going to drag the basketball along with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. What is one of the NCAA's biggest revenue makers?
NCAA basketball tournament. By far.
It's going to be the NIT by the time the Big Ten and the SEC are done with it. So the NCAA is officially on life support at this point.
Oh, yeah, it has been. It's been gasping for a while. So here's what's going on, people. Basically, the Big Ten and the SEC are getting together, and they're going to basically tell the NCAA, we're done with you. And there's going to be nothing that the NCAA can do about it. Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. The NCAA is going to lose in court to Tennessee and I think it's Virginia who's suing the NCAA.
Yes.
They're going to lose in court for that. By the way, the NCAA has lost in court how many times in a row now?
Oh, it's disgusting, Eric. They've got a terrible record. They got a worse record than Vanderbilt football.
Wow. That was a slap at Vandy. What'd they ever do to you, Chris? And then on top of this, okay, here's what's really interesting in my mind. You have for the last few years what everybody has called the wild, wild west when it comes to NIL, correct?
Yes.
All right.
They did that
And
when they instituted it completely. No
s-
rules in play.
schools have been begging for guidelines, and the NCAA has been able to do zero about it. Nothing. So the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get together and go, fine, we'll make our own guidelines since you guys are terrible at this. And it's what's needed to be done for a long, long time. The best thing that the Big Ten and the SEC can do is come together and say, all right, we're going to become the Big Two, and we're going to have our own tournament, national championship playoff, and we're going to get a commissioner to run our leagues to make things fair for our institutions. And this is going to cause places like the ACC and the Big 12 and Notre Dame to have to make decisions. And those decisions are going to be made quickly. But before, because this is going to be a separate video we're going to do, before we dive into Florida State and the rumors we're hearing about that and the implications that are going to come from that, I have to ask you, Chris, what is the end game here for the Big Ten and the SEC? I think they're breaking off from the NCAA. They're going to make their own rules, regulations, run their own. They're going to have their own body of empowerment to run them. What you call, I think, NFL 2.0 or NFL
Yes.
Light. These rules will include NIL rules. It will include paying players. You want to talk about an unfair
Yeah,
advantage?
I don't think it's going to include NIL rules, Eric. I think you're going to see a collective bargaining agreement in place with the unionization of the players. I think you're going to see contracts in play, whether it's a single year at will contract or whether it's a multi year contract. You're going to see sponsorships allowed to be had. These kids are going to be professional athletes. This is going to be an NFL structured league. Uh, it's going to be bigger than the NFL, though, Eric. That's the thing. Because if you look at the NFL, each conference has 16 teams. I think we're headed towards two 24 team conferences.
Hmm. It very well could
I
get
mean, you're
there.
already looking at 18 in each league, so they're not going to stop at 16. 20 isn't logical when you can go to 24 and get a more even playoff. Most likely, extend a team or extend a schedule to 12 regular season games with 4 additional games for playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah,
it's wild what's going
it
on.
is wild.
And what you said is 100% true. This started with the lack of
Insti-
testicular fortitude, on
institutional
lack of
control.
institutional control, but at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the highest level. It was the NCAA not having the guts, not having the wisdom to not only control NIL, to not only control these conferences, but really the fact that they have been just selectively penalizing teams for 30, 40 years now. I mean, literally, that's it. You look at teams like, and I'm just going to say Ohio State because that's our guys. And what happened to Jim Tressel versus what happened with more serious violations at Michigan with no consequence to date. You look at schools in the Big 12, like, or the old Pac 12, that were getting serious sanctions. You look at schools like USC and the sanctions they saw. You go back to Miami when they got hit with the sanctions that put their program down for so long.
Shoot, look at SMU.
SMU and the death penalty.
They still are not the same. They've not recovered.
This is a problem. The NCAA has been what I would call selectively effective for so long that these two power conferences, who really have all the chips, Eric, if you look at the media revenues right now that we're getting on television, They hold all the chips. The NCAA has nothing. And I think this is a move that we've predicted for a while. The only thing I feel is that it's happening a lot quicker than what we thought because there has been some suggestion that this could happen as soon as this summer.
Right.
And like you
Hmm.
said, there's going to be some teams forced to make some decisions. Sorry, John Kennedy, yours is one of them. There's going to be teams forced to make some decisions
Yeah.
that are going to impact college sports moving forward.
When the Big Ten hired Tony Petitti
Petiti, yes.
to be the new conference commissioner, it was done so with this in mind.
Yeah. This had less to do with sports and more to do with media.
Yeah, contract,
Like
media,
yeah,
yep, television
contract
contracts.
negotiations and media because if you look at it, and we were just talking about this, these two conferences are taking very different approaches to this. And the
Hmm.
Big Ten is attacking it, whereas Sankey does it more from, I would say, an athletic standpoint. Tony Petitti is attacking this from a media share standpoint.
Yeah.
He's going after the big schools that have big media markets. He's wanting to work that I-95 corridor down the East Coast. He's already went down the West Coast and secured, the four best teams on the West Coast.
Hmm.
It, he is a marketing genius when it comes to media. No, I don't think it can be questioned.
Yeah. So he, in the next video, we're going to get into the fallout of what's going to happen this summer with these things. But here's what I want to get to in closing here, Chris. You've got Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti locking arms, going up against the NCAA. The NCAA's got no teeth left, no backbone. I think this is something that the SEC and Sankey's been wanting to do for a long time.
They
And
were
now
just
that
waiting for a partner.
and now that the Big Ten basically went and ransacked and ended the Pac-12 with Fox's help, which is what happened, now the Big Ten feels like they are strong enough to walk into the same room with the SEC and say, okay, if we're going to do this, here's what we want. All right. So let me break this down to you from a negotiation contract standpoint for you. The NCAA will not have a seat at this table.
No,
They won't.
absolutely not.
Okay. The reason why, and if you ever, if Ohio State ever had, gosh, can't believe I'm about to say this, had Michigan to thank for what's about to happen, it's right now because the fact that Michigan
Yeah,
went out there and beat Alabama and won the national championship against another now Big Ten team in Washington, Petiti can walk into that room with Greg Sankey and look him eye to eye.
yeah,
Okay, and when they negotiate what we want, what's going to happen here, they're going to sit down at the negotiation table and they're going to say, um, here's how this is going to go look in the future. Here's what we want. And it's going to go back and forth between the two conferences.
Well, and here, let me tell you too, Eric. You talked about having Michigan to thank, and you're right. I think on several different levels for that. However, at the same time, I think that the SEC also was feeling weakened by not only the Big Ten's dominance this year, but the fact that they lost the guy who's been calling the shots in the SEC for the last, 20 years? And it wasn't Greg Sankey. It was the guy who roamed the sidelines at Alabama.
Mm, mm.
This was this was the moons of the stars just lining up, and this is the perfect time to make this move for both sides here. And
Right.
the NCAA does not stand a
Listen,
chance.
there's going to be a lot of SEC people who are going to watch this video. And if they get to this point in the video, Chris, they're going to disagree with us. But let me say this to them. If you're going to separate yourself from the NCAA, you have to have a dance partner.
You do, and I think this was, like I said, a great timing. And like I said, I think that it's very complimentary because of the fact that you've got Sankey, who's going to be more focused, I think, athletically, versus Petiti, who's that more media-driven guy. This is their brainstorming between the two of them is going to be a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
because Sankey will help Petiti get that athletic end. Petiti will help Sankey get those TV contracts where they need to be, and it's just going to be a perfect marriage.
You're going to walk. What's going to happen? Listen to this, because the SEC people, we don't need anybody else. We have 16 of the
We
best teams
do.
in the SEC
So
now.
do
If
we. You know,
well,
that's
if that was your attitude, then the Big Ten was going to be with the Pac-12, the ACC. Remember the coalition between the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12
that lasted for about a week.
that lasted for a week, right? Okay, remember that? All right. So that was the Big Ten's way of basically saying, if that's what you're going to do, then us three are going to stay together. And you can't claim that the SEC champion is the national champion because you're alone in that.
Yes.
And so, unfortunately, things moved differently than what I think they were anticipating, and the Pac 12 fell apart because Fox basically made it happen. And now you have the Big Ten going, okay, now we're on the same level as you, SEC. And even ahead of you in things like revenue and television contracts and things like financially, they have a lot of power. And we haven't even touched on the educational and the research aspect of this. Okay,
Yes.
which is also incredibly huge for these universities. And you look at this just from a football athletic standpoint, and now the Big Ten can walk into the offices and negotiate with the SEC, and they can make an exit plan from the NCAA that is beneficial for every institution that is in both these conferences. And you're going to see, in closing, the ACC fall apart now. They're next. They're
Yes.
the
I
ones going to
agree.
fall apart next. What happens to the Big 12 is going to be incredibly interesting to me. Does it become a power three with the Big 12 basically being kind of like the middle tier between the group of five schools and the P2 schools in the SEC and the Big Ten? Or do they also get gobbled up? You said 48. We'll see. It'll be very hard, I think, to have a national champion similar to the NFL with the AFC and NFC with the Big Ten and SEC type of national championship. Because what could happen is each conference could literally have their own playoff,
Well,
and
and
then the winners.
I actually had that figured out, Eric, exactly how it wrote down. You take each side having 24 teams, you're going to have a 16 team playoff, 8 from each side. With the first round of 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. You have 3 playoff weekends. They love that revenue from 3 playoff weekends, by the way. And a national championship game where the winner of the SEC bracket faces the winner of the Big Ten bracket. And I'll tell you, I honestly can tell you, I think if they follow this format, you're looking to see the college football playoff and specifically the national championship game become as big as the Super Bowl.
And the one question that you're going to get from this, and let's address this right now. I've said in closing 3 times. How does the bowl games affect this? If we take your
What bowl
scenario,
games?
hold on. If we take your scenario, after the first round, you have 4 teams left. That's 2 bowl games. Then your Big Ten champion, which would be the Rose Bowl. So there's your Rose Bowl, right? And then you have 2 other bowl games that would come along to the Big Ten. Probably, I would say, I'm guessing the Fiesta would jump in on that, and probably maybe Cotton, especially if we get a Dallas team market,
Yeah,
um, that would come along. And I think the SEC, you've got the orange,
peach,
the peach, and the what's the
citrus.
one? No, what's the one that's in LSU?
Oh, the
Or down in New Orleans. I forget which one that's called. That's the other one, I believe.
that's the wow.
Anyways,
How long have we been doing this, Eric? And we can't remember
RL
the name.
Carriers something Holiday Bowl or something. No, that Holiday's
No,
California. Anyways, I think your New Year's Six bowl games are still going to be divvied up between the two, is what's going to happen, and then yeah, so this is going to be incredibly
but
interesting.
this is the beautiful thing, Eric. If this plays out the way we believe it will, and you do get these players on contract instead of just paying them with NIL dollars, there is no sitting at a bowl game.
Well,
You can bet. You can bet that'll be part of the collective bargaining
not
agreement.
only that, it completely changes the transfer portal. Because if you have a 3-year contract, you're going to have to be traded.
Yes.
So, some very different. Some people might negotiate a 1-year deal with a team. That's a possibility.
Well, I think that's what they're thinking. A lot of players are going to do is probably go in on a 1 year Atwell contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be your stars, your Marvin Harrison Juniors, your your Aaron Nolans, your freshman quarterbacks that are coming in who are very high rated. Those guys are probably going to get 2, 3, 4 year contracts. But here's the other thing: if you fail to play that fourth season, you're going to forfeit a portion of that contract.
Mm-hmm. The other,
So there's a
yeah,
lot of different aspects of this that they're working the kinks out on.
yeah. So, which means there's going to be a players' union as well. So there'll
Yes,
be a.
absolutely. I 100%. You know what? I'm sure the boys at Northwestern are happy to hear that.
They've
They're
been fighting
finally
for
going to
that
get.
for
They've been fighting for that union for what, a decade at
couple, I
least.
think. Yeah. Gosh, that was a long time. I
So
think I'm pretty sure I was fresh out of college when that happened.
I gotta say,
So,
Patty Fitz might have still been playing for Northwestern when they were trying to unionize.
my gosh, this is crazy. And of course, what does that mean? It means Notre Dame's going to be left out unless they join a conference. What that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please like, share, subscribe. Very interesting stuff. By the way, where'd you get all this information? Chris and I have watched a couple different videos from people who are a lot more in the know than we are that have been talking about this stuff and have inside sources. This is what's coming down the pike. Buckle up. Some of it's probably going to happen. Some of it might not. We did speculate on a little bit of this, but that's what this is all about. That's what makes it fun. So that's why we decided to make this video. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think is going to happen down in the comments section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why? Who's your sources? Do you think something different is going to play out? And where does that leave teams like Notre Dame? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Until next time, OH,
IO.
go Bucks.